to rise, innovate, and create lasting impact. And today I have my special guest, a business advisor, an author, and creator of the Clear Path to Cash, none other than Mr. Mike Milan.
What's up, Daniel? Live from San Antonio, it is Cashflow Mike, and I think we're becoming best friends. That's what I
Yes,
think.
yes, indeed. Please do come over and over and over on Entrepreneurship 101 and let's talk about business under the sun. What do you think?
Hey, anytime it's business, I'm ready, I'm happy, and let's do it.
Let's do it. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Mike. Thank you. Our audience love you. So today, let's talk about the cash flow. Wake up call. One conversation that changes everything. Oh my goodness. I hope our listener will empower to this episode. You frame this as a wake up call, suggesting we are somewhat asleep to our cash flow reality. What is the most common and dangerous dream people are having about their business finances that this idea will shatter?
Hey, I've got to tell you what, the most common thing I hear, right, when I'm working with business owners, working with business advisors, doesn't matter. Most common thing I hear is I can't sleep, right? I'm losing sleep, right? I'm losing sleep because I'm always worried about, can I make payroll? Can I pay this bill? Why can't sales come in faster? There's always something that keeps people awake. And if that's you, I've got some tools and tricks and tips for you today.
Yes, definitely. Go for it, Mr. Mike. Share us the first step.
Well, I've got to tell you, I mean, one of the biggest things about cash, and I'm on a mission to eliminate cash flow as a reason that businesses fail, right? You can fail for any other reason. Maybe people don't like your product, but I don't want you to fail because you run out of money, right? One of the things that you got to understand is that profit does not equal cash. Even though you might have profit on paper, you made money. If it's not in the bank, it's not cash, and you can only spend cash. So let's just start there.
Yes. The single conversation, the promise of one conversation that changes everything. Without giving away the entire blueprint, can you describe the nature of the conversation? Is it with ourselves, a partner, an advisor, or what makes this transformative, Mr. Mike?
Yeah, I think the first thing we do is we got to stop being scared of the financial statements, right? Because there's a wealth of knowledge inside the financial statements. So what I think you're referring to is my book, The 7 Minute Conversation. That's where I teach anybody to analyze financial statements in 7 minutes or less, right? And what it does is you have to see the interconnectedness between all of your actions. Too many of us start looking at our business in silos, look at one thing versus another thing, but they all play together. So some people will use financial statements, and I'm just going to kind of teach for a second, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead. We like that.
Yeah. So when we get, I talked to a lot of business owners and I said, well, what statements do you use to run your business? And some people will pull out the bank statement, and here's the thing
Mhm.
about the bank statement. The bank statement's only going to tell you if you're having a good or bad day, right? Do I have money or not? That's it. That's all you're going to know about from the bank statement. It's not going to tell you how
Mhm.
your business runs. The other one that they lean on is like the report card for the business. It's the income statement. Some people call it the profit and loss statement, right? That's the one that we determine how well our business is doing. Well, that just validates the business model. If I sell this much and I spend this much, this is what's left over, right? So it's only going to tell you if you have a good or bad month, a good or bad quarter, a good or bad year, right? And then it starts over, but nobody knows why it starts over. Like going, wow, we blew it in January. Don't worry about it. We'll go get them in February, right? You ever felt like that?
Mhm. Yes,
Yeah. Well,
definitely.
the reason it gets to start over is because the result, either you made money or you lost money, but that gets put onto the balance sheet in the form of retained earnings. If you see retained earnings, that's just the accumulation of all profits and losses that you've made in the whole history of the company. And that's the thing about the balance sheet, is that it never starts over. It is a culmination of every single decision you've ever made throughout the whole life of the company. What you owe, what you own, what you have, all of it is sitting right there. And then that leads me to the last one, the one we always ignore, and that's the cash flow statement. Now, let me just tell you how a quick or tell you about a quick and easy way to use the cash flow statement. It is the tattletale of the business, right? Anybody that knows how to
Yes.
read it, right? Anybody knows how to read it knows where your money came from and what you did with it. So that's the one thing you got to watch out for is that cash flow statement will tell you if the money came from your business, if it came from an investment, like maybe you sold off some of your equipment, or if it came from your pocket, right? Like you put money into the business. It'll tell anybody that knows how to read it where that money came from.
Interesting, Mr. Mike. Interesting. Beyond profit on paper, many entrepreneurs look at a P&L and see profit, yet still feel a constant cash crunch. What is the critical visual difference between profitability and positive cash flow and change how lender breathes, sleeps, and makes decisions?
Yeah, so super interesting, right? Because that's the first step is you always want to make profit, right? That just means your business model is working. I'm going to have so much in sales after I take out my cost of sales or cost of goods sold, I'm going to have gross profit. Now, some people think sales are the most important thing and they're really not. Sales is only a measurement of how much work you did, right? That's it. You can only spend gross profit. So gross profit is the most important number on the income statement. It is where all the cash comes from to pay for your expenses or put in your pocket. Then you get your operating expenses, the net profit. That's what I call vertical math, right? It starts with sales, ends with net profit. That's vertical math. That's where we think we make money, and we do, except we also have to look at the horizontal math. And what I mean by horizontal math is how long does it take for money to come in? When I make a sale and I give somebody an invoice, I have to record it as a sale that day. But that doesn't mean I get paid that day, right? So the difference between profit and cash flow is timing. Even when I record the sale, the customer might wait for 30 or 40 days to pay me. So I don't see the cash till next month. That's where people get into trouble. They think they have money and they don't. And it's called accrual based accounting, right? Not cash based, accrual based accounting, and I call it's a cruel, like mean based accounting because it makes you think you have money and you don't.
Mhm. So, Mr. Mike, tell us the emotional dashboard. For many, checking their bank balance is emotional roller coaster. How does your approach move cash flow from being a source of anxiety to become a neutral strategic dashboard? What mindset shift has to happen first?
Yeah. So one of the things you have to learn is that you can't chase money, right? You just can't. It will always run away from you because money has its own energy. You have to attract it, right? You have to be a magnet. Money has to come to you, and you do that through your message, through your, your good work with your clients, through having a quality product. You have to be able to attract money to you, right? Because you just can't chase it. So that's the first mind shift that you have to make is I have to build a message and build a service or product that people want, and they'll pull it from me instead of me pushing it to them.
Yes, I like that. I like that, Mr. Mike. The
Mhm.
symptoms versus the disease. What are the common symptoms like the fees or famine cycle or the client dependency that point into a deeper cash flow illness? How do you trace them back to their root cause?
Yeah, so I built well, it's a cause and effect map. It's how everything is interconnected inside of the business. And you're talking about feast and famine, that's a timing issue, right? That's just
Mm.
maybe I don't have a sales process that gives me a consistent flow of sales, so I have feast and famine. Or maybe, I'm in a business that's seasonal where I can only sell in, the summer and not in the winter, right? I can't mow lawns in the winter in Wyoming. So it could be that. But
Hmm.
it's also one of those things when you talk about the timing and you talk about how issues have symptoms, the first thing I look at is, do I make money or not? Profit, right? So that's going to be the first thing because it validates the business model. And then the next thing you can expect if you're losing money or you have low profit, that you're going to have negative operating cash flow. That means you're spending more than you have coming in. Remember, that's gross profit. So you have less money coming in than you have going out. If that happens, the big warning signs that go off, there's this thing called a current ratio, right? And now I don't want to say, okay, let's do a math class on entrepreneurship 101, but here's what I want you to think about the current ratio. The current ratio is, do I have enough money to support myself? Can I pay my own bills? And if you look at the ratio, it's current assets divided by current liabilities. Those are on the balance sheet. But I don't want you to think about that. I want you to think about current asset is your checking account. And I want you to think about a current liability is your credit card. Follow me? Current
Mm-hmm.
asset, checking
Yes.
account, current liability is credit card.
Mm-hmm.
If you divide it, right, whatever's in your checking account, you divide it by what you owe in the credit card, it gives you the current ratio. Simply, right? In a simple
Simple.
enough way. But here's the result, right? So if I have a one as that number, if I have $100 in checking and I divide it by $100 in my credit card, that equals one. Well, how you interpret that is, for every dollar you owe on the credit card, you have $1 in checking to pay for it. Banks want to see you with a two. For every dollar you owe on the credit card, they want you to have $2 in checking. So that's one of the ways that you can manage or avoid some of the cash flow problems, is saying, oh, I need to have more money in the business and stop taking these ski trips and trips to Aruba. I just need to actually, keep some money in the company instead of pulling it all out. And that's what we normally do.
Definitely, yes. So, in your experience, what is the single biggest blind spot founders, creators, and service providers have about the money moving in out and their business? Is it timing, pricing, or something else obvious?
Well, it's one of six things actually. So when you think about it, I've got this technique called mining your business for hidden cash, and it looks at your business from those two different angles, vertically and horizontally at the same time. Now, the six calculations, there are three of them that are called cash generating activities in your business. That's sales, right? Sales is one of them. Gross profit is another. That's your pricing. Do I price it high enough to generate enough money to pay for my expenses? And then, of course, your operating expenses. How much do you spend? Those are the three. Do I have enough sales? Do I price it enough to cover my operating expenses and make some profit? So those are the three I look at first. The second one are all cash conversion activities. That's, how long does inventory sit on my shelf? Well, if you don't have inventory, that's zero, right? But if you
Yes.
if you have inventory, it might sit there for 30 or 40 days on average, and there's a calculation to cover that. The second is, how long does it take my customers to pay me? Right. And there's an average number there. So if it takes them 30 days or 40 days or 50 days, that goes in to help you do your cash flow forecast so you can anticipate when money's going to come in. Then at the same time, you want to talk about how long it takes you to pay your bills, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the perfect mix there is just kind of, I want to have money coming in and out about the same time, or I want to keep more money in my company, uh, meaning not paying it out, than's coming in. I want more money coming in than going out. Of course, that's a simple way to say it. You mentioned something earlier about the customer mix, right? And
Yes.
the perfect customer mix, because you can rely too much on one customer. And if you lose that customer, you lose your business, right? If you had one big
Yes.
customer and you lose it. So I think that's what you were talking about. Well, the perfect mix, if you're looking at it, is to have no customer larger than 8% of your total business, right? No one customer. That way, if you lose them, you still got 92% of the business available. So if you're looking at your big mix, make sure that the thing you're working towards is that your largest customer is no more than 8%. That's the perfect mix.
Let's talk about the liquidity as freedom, Mr. Mike. You talk about cash flow as the key to freedom, not just survival. How does moving from scarcity mindset around cash to liquidity mindset fundamentally change the risk of an entrepreneur is willing and able to take?
Yeah, you know what's funny about liquidity is that, if you ask any of these professionals a lot of times what liquidity is, half the
Hmm.
time they're not going to know. They're going to think it's just cash. Oh, quick
Hmm.
cash, liquid. No,
Hmm.
look, liquidity is often confused with cash. If it's cash, it's just cash. What liquidity is how fast can you convert things to cash? How fast can you do that? So on the balance sheet at the top, there's the assets section, right? Assets. And you got cash, then you got the other current assets. These are things that kind of move pretty fast, like your checking account, like your inventory, like your AR. Generally, these are things that move within 1 year, within 12 months, right? It
Mhm.
generally you can collect your invoices or sell your inventory, those type of things. Then lastly are your fixed assets. That's your building and your equipment and those type of things. So the way I teach liquidity is that liquidity is about how fast can you take your stuff and turn it into cash. So do you live somewhere near like snow, ice, those type of things?
Yes, Vancouver, British Columbia.
Yeah, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so
Yes.
let's connect those assets to liquid, right? Because we're talking about liquidity.
Mhm.
I want you to think about cash being liquid. That's pretty easy, right? Cash
Yes.
equals liquid
Liquid.
or
Yeah,
water.
okay.
We'll just call it water to make it simple. Cash equals water.
Okay.
Now, up in Vancouver, British Columbia, when the snow is starting to melt, there's kind of before it becomes water or wet on the sidewalk or on the street, there's a form of it that exists. You know that form? Kind of
Mhm.
not ice, not water. What do you guys
True.
call it?
In
What do you,
between.
yeah, what do you call it up there?
Well, we don't call that any. But well, I don't know. Sorry,
All right,
we
that's
do not
okay. I
call
mean,
that.
some places will call that slush.
Okay.
Right,
Mhm.
because it's got some ice chunks in it, and it's not quite water, and it's not quite snow, it's just kinda in the middle. So, some places will call it slush, so that's what I call accounts receivable and inventory, meaning it can become water, but it just takes a little bit of time, right? You gotta melt the little
Mhm.
ice chips that are in it. Then you look at your fixed assets, your buildings and all that. It can also become water, but it just takes more time, so I call that ice, right?
Oh, okay.
Ice becomes water, slush becomes water. We all want things to become water, but you gotta remember it's about timing, right? So, how long does it take to convert your building to cash? Well, you have to sell it. You have to put it on the market. How long does it take to convert your AR, your accounts receivable to cash? Well, you have to make phone calls and and collect on it. So that it's all about timing. How fast does this occur?
Mhm. Well, empowering answer, Mr. Mike. Thank you for that. So let's talk about the strategic buffer. You advocate for a cash flow buffer rather than just emergency fund. What is the operational difference? How much is enough? And what strategic move does having the buffer suddenly make possible?
Yeah. So basically, what I tell people, if you don't know where to start, just look at how much you're spending per month, right? Spending per month.
Yes.
And you want to have 3 to 6 months worth of that. So if I spend $10,000 a month on my business and my rent and my salaries and my utilities and subscriptions, then I want to have somewhere between 30 and $60,000 in cash. Now, how do you know if it's 30 or how do you know if it's 60? Well, how predictable is your business? If it's more stable and the sales tend to come in about the same every month, you only need about 3 months worth. If it's really volatile, like we talked about, and there's high seasonality and you got feast and famine, you should keep about 6 months. And you might be saying, well, why? Well, because we don't know what the future holds, and you don't want one change in the environment around you to close your business. Think of COVID, think of a tornado or hurricanes or any of these things, sickness. Any of these things can disrupt your business pattern to whereas if you don't have that buffer, you'll have to close, right? You just will.
Yes. Hmm.
So those assume that sales are ongoing. If sales slow or if sales stop, there's another calculation you can do called days cash on hand, right? And that assumes that there's no or low sales. Well, days cash on hand is also called runway. Like, how much do I have left before I have to close? I always tell people you need at least a minimum of 45 days, right? Anything over 45 days is what we're trying to get to, but at least gives you either that 3 to 6 months or that 45 days. It gives you chance to pivot. It gives you a chance to ward off a threat. It gives you a chance to maybe take advantage of an opportunity. Maybe your competitor is going out of business and you can buy his business and by his customers, right? So having that buffer gives you the opportunity to either again ward off a threat or take advantage of an opportunity.
Interesting. Mr. Mike, so forecasting and guessing. What does a simple but powerful a 90-day cash flow forecast look like for a small business? What are the 3 to 5 key lines they must track to move from reactive panic to proactive control?
Yeah, I think you can just map it out, right? Pretty easily, meaning that what is my accounts receivable? What do my customers owe me currently? But then you got to kind of look at each customer saying, oh, he typically pays in 30 days. He typically pays in 55 days. And then you can just map it out. If I give you an invoice today, 55 days from now, I can expect money just based on your history. So calculating the individual AR rates or days of each customer is important. On the other hand, you've got your own bills, right? Your own accounts payable. You need to map out your own pattern. I typically pay this when it's due, or I typically pay this the week after it's due, whatever that is. You can map that out just on a calendar. Just, I'm going to pay this much. Then there's a couple other things that people miss. One is a recurring expense. Like we all have recurring expenses like rent or subscriptions, those things that come out of our bank account, right? Then there's
Yes.
the fourth one. The fourth line you're going to look at is miscellaneous expenses. Like, oh man, I think I'm going to need a new monitor next month, so I need to save $500 or $1,000 for that. But you put those in last, right? Because you look at what the cash balance is after your regular business expenses are coming out, and you go, oh, the best time to buy that might be in April because I'll have more cash built up, right? If I can limp along till April.
Mm, definitely. Yes. Extra cash for that. Challenges and sustainability, Mr. Mike. Ironically, rapid growth can be a major cause of a cash flow death. How can entrepreneur tell the difference between good cash flow stress and calling the bad cash flow stress?
Oh, I tell you, this is where I got in trouble, right? Early on in my career, this is where I got in trouble. You, everybody thinks of a cash flow problem as a company that's struggling. No, really well-run companies can also have cash flow companies. Companies you think are successful can have cash flow problems, meaning that myself, I opened 27 offices in 9 states in 3 years of a hotel staffing company. Now, think about that. You're like, oh man, that was going well. It was going awesome, except for the fact that every time I opened a new office or took on a new client, I also increased my debt. You're like, well, how did that happen? Well, think about this. Every new sale, I had to carry the payroll for almost 3 months by myself. You're like,
Mhm,
what? What does
yes.
that mean?
Hmm.
Because I was making payroll every 2 weeks. But if I gave Marriott, we'll say Marriott or Hilton or Hyatt, an invoice, they might take 3 months to pay it. Well, that means I got to cover 6 payrolls before I get my first check. So every new client gave me 3 months of payroll debt. So I'm like, yeah, which means the more I sold, the bigger the hole was, and I didn't
Yes,
realize it until it was
definitely.
too big, right? I didn't realize I
Mm.
just thought, "Oh, I'll sell my way out of this." No, I couldn't. I just was creating a bigger and bigger hole every time I sold something. And you know who said it best? I mean, you've heard of Michael Dell, right? And Dell Computers.
Yes. Hmm.
His famous cash flow quote is, "We were spending so much time watching the speedometer that we forgot to look at the gas gauge." And what he
True.
meant by that was that sales were the speedometer. He was measuring his whole business by sales, but because he changed his business model from building a computer with your money. I don't know if you remember this or not, but they used to sell computers where you would actually order it piece by piece. I want this monitor with this CPU, with this RAM, with this keyboard, and you would pay your money up front. They would build your computer and then ship it to you, right? So they were using your money to build the computer. Well,
True.
when CompUSA and big box stores, Best Buy and all that came in, everybody could not or didn't have to wait 6 weeks for the computer to be built. They could just walk into Best Buy and grab one, right, and have it that day.
Mm,
So Dell had to start putting them in packages and put them on the shelf, which means they ran into the same problem I did. They had to buy the parts up front, put the computer together, put it in a store, wait for you to buy it, and then wait to get paid. They had to front all the money up front. So that's how most successful companies get into problems is that they take on too many sales and they can't keep up with it with the cash flow.
Mr. Mike, before we wrap up the discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course, my book 101 review in a sixth season as well, comedy 101 third season, and my food 101 in sixth season. Two, Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101, Review Music 101 of fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101, fourth season, and my baby podcast, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Mike, something say my business is not just too small or too unique for this apply. What's your response? What is the universal cash flow truth that appeals to every revenue generating endeavor?
Hey, follow this rule. It's expense control, right? And expense control says this: when gross profit is down, cut operating expenses by the same amount, and you'll make the same money no matter your sales. So let me say that a little simply. Gross profit is the amount of money you have to spend. Operating expense is how you spend it. When you have less money to spend less money. That's the tip for the day.
Thank you for the tip, Mr. Mike. Please spend less. And thank you again for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, something cool right now is that I have free access to the 7-minute conversation. If you look at your financial statements and don't know what you're looking at or just need a little bit of help, there's 6 calculations I teach you in this free course on how to look at the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement together. All it costs you is an email address, and you can get it for free at cashflowmike.com.
Yes, people, do it now. Stop procrastinating. Connect with Mr. Mike. I have one more question, Mr. Mike. For entrepreneur listening who feels that familiar knot of anxiety about money, what is the one non-negotiable first conversation they should have, and to with whom before the end of this week to start changing everything?
Yeah, the first thing you got to realize is that just control what you can control, right? If you can control the spending, control that. If you can control, who you sell to, you control that. But if you need help, contact any business advisor, your CPA, your accountant. Contact me. It doesn't matter. Just reach out, cashflowmike.com, and I'll give you some advice on what to do next.
Yes, people, let's connect with Mr. Mike Milan, because if you, well, connect with him for sure, you will have a booming business. So, Mr. Mike, thank you so much for your time.
All right, buddy. Thank you, Daniel. Good to see you again.
Welcome, people. See you soon.